This is Short Hammer. It is the 5th of July, 2020, and this is Trading Zones. Happy 4th of July, or the day right after. My goodness. Looking at the market, a lot of the areas that we mentioned in our last video were hit, and what we expected to happen happened. So if we're looking at the MES headed into the week, this area 29.94.25. We see the extension below, just a wick, and this is on the 4 hour now. We see the pullback above, and then we see the reversal from this 29.94.25 area, which is a line. And I know some people think these lines are random. These lines are not random, guys. So we see the reversal here, and we move in the other direction, right? Look at this strength in the other direction. Look at this strength in the other direction. And it's gone. And then when you see this push through, right, this strength above the line, back test, strength hits this line. You see the rejection initially, but you don't see a lower low here, right? Look at that strength straight through. And then you get a push, a fade off of the 3156 area, a push, and then a fade off of the 3156 area. Then we pull back down here near the 3118s. And then we tap it through. And the next one, we push through. So perfect. So going into this upcoming week, what am I going to be watching? Okay. Are we going to hold a 31.1850? Will we buy back up above that? And will we see strength into the 31.56? Or let's look back. This date here is the 16th of June. And that was the last time we hit that 31.56 line and we rejected. So when we did that rejection eventually led to us not just testing the 3064, the 3028, but also that 29.94 area. So now we're back there again. If we reject again and we sell, well, what we have to look for is if we continue to the downside to the 3064 and we go below that to 3028, one of two things will be true. Either we'll reverse at a higher level, which will then mean we'll look for as far as these candle waves, if we stop here and we reverse and there's strength to the move, we get a higher high. So we'd watch the 3180, 3221, see if we could pop this. If we don't bounce at any of these levels, but we're now back down to 29.94, we'd watch for a double bottom here. If we don't see that, if instead we see a roll through, now we're watching the 29.70, 29.51, 29.45, 29.38, or 29.14 to see if at any of those points price would reverse. And I know looking at the 4 hour chart, it looks kind of like, man, how would I know? But if you drill down to the 5 minute and drill down to the 10 minute, it'll be easier to see clearly exactly where your entry would be and where your stop would be. But like me personally, I usually on the futures get in and I'll have maybe a 3 point stop to a 6 point stop, depending on my entry. And whenever my stop is on the other side, when it goes in the other direction, so if it's 6 points one way, then my 50% profit take is 3 or 6 points in the other direction. I'll take some off and then I'll let it go, let some ride a little bit if the move is strong enough, and I'll take a few more off. But usually I'm pretty tight on those entries, and I'm going to take it the other direction, and I'll just be scaling out. And what I'll usually do is I'll take a lot of bites of the apple if that move isn't super strong. So if I feel we're going to retest that area again multiple times, then I will definitely take maybe 5 or 6 bites of the apple, multiple contracts, 3, 6 points at a time. That's just that's just me. Um, but everyone trades a little bit differently. And my thing is usually point to point. And I'll take those 3 to 6 points if I don't see strength in a specific direction. So we just mentioned exactly what we're watching for this upcoming week. We'll see where we open. But if this on the MES, if this reverses and pushes us through 3156, then we need to be watching the 3180s, 3221s. And if we push above that for some strange reason, then 3259, 3286 are in play. But this move, I am going to be leaning more bearish unless we receive some sort of new vaccine news or some type of stimulus news. We'll see which way this goes, but I'm going to be watching this 3118.50, and I'm going to play off this line. If we're above it, I'll see if we have the strength to push it back to 3156 or higher. If we're below it, I'll see if we can fade down to the 3064.50 or lower. Excuse me. So looking at the Russell, and so if we're coming into the week, we're about here, right? And 28th, we see this. We didn't quite make it to 1350, but the price did reverse. And the strength in this move, look at this push up. We pushed above the 1420, and we see the like we're holding, and we're watching this move. It's a little bit choppy though, and push up into the 1453, then a reversal down and back into the 1420. And if you listen to my last video, I was like, I'm not going to be messing with the Russell this past week. I don't like yes, there's range, but it just feels so choppy. It's not as smooth to me as the ES and the MES have been. So from here, what are we looking for? Either for the buyers to step in off the 1420s and push us back into the 1453s and see if we could advance price above 1453 and potentially push into the 1516s. But you can see these upper wicks are going to be areas that we have to really get through. Look at that. So these upper wicks, these reversals, this 1459 again, just 1465. We need to push through that area. So we'll see if we can catch a bid off these 1420s and push back up, and then 1453s. If we cannot, then I'll watch for us to sell in the areas that I'll be watching. If we sell, if we go lower, watch here first, 1399. Then the next area you'd be watching is as we drop down here around the 1384s, and then these lower areas here, 1368 to 1359, and then the line at 1350, you would look for a potential reversal, right? And you can see here, this area here. You look to see if buyers step in and reverse this. And so to the downside, you can watch the 1350s and potentially the 1290s, but I think it'll take a little bit more news to drive us through the to the 1290s. You see these upper wicks here coming across on this at this 1350 area. So I'd watch that carefully. And if we get tremendous news, then you can watch, the 1516s and a push above into the 1560s. Those are the lines that we have in the areas that we have. And below 1290s, we have the 1252s. You can see this on the chart. So Amazon. So what did we say to watch for on Amazon? So on our video, we said, and you can check it, watch for the 2660s to 2626 area. These lines were pre-drawn. Watch the last video. Watch the video before that. Those lines have been there. And where did price reverse? Push through 2660 into 2626. Now, this looked like it was pre-market, right? So you wouldn't have had an opportunity, but you saw the setup. So when the market opened, we were already back above the 2660, it looks like. And look at this reversal and this push and this strong pop, right? They made it clear to the sellers right around this 2781 area where price reversed last time. They made it clear to the sellers that, hey, this will not be an impediment to progress. And they blew through that, right? Then we had a back test below. And then that next candle, look at the strength of that candle. Boom. Look at the strength in these candles. Pop the top. So what are we watching for? All-time highs. What are we watching for this upcoming week, right? Just be careful. Keep your eye on Amazon. See where it can go. But it popped all-time highs. Look at that strength. Look at that. So I would be watching this to see if we see a pullback into the, what's this, 27.99. But chances are Amazon goes from expansion to consolidation to expansion again. So we'll see if we continue to expand. We have earnings, looks like on the 23rd of July. If that holds true, this may have been that dip that you get before earnings, headed into earnings. People usually look for a dip on tickers like Amazon, 30 to 45 days before earnings to start to build a position headed into earnings. And this may have already been the pop. So we'll see what Amazon does, but earnings is coming up. And the premium, as far as the if you're buying options, the volatility is going to be going through the roof headed into earnings. So keep an eye on Amazon. And if you get another dip, that might be an opportunity to buy, but just be careful because it's already made this nice move. That's a nice move here on Amazon. And earnings is not too far off. So definitely be careful. But if you're looking for projections of where this could go, you may want to post a question below the video in the comments, or private message Elisa, because her pivot strategy is predictive in nature, and so you'd be able to see where this is going, right? The areas that are projected where this can go. And so these things that hit these higher highs, that's sort of her arena, where I'm more of a retracement trader. And I also use pivots, right, on my intradays and also my swing plays. But the videos that I do tend to focus more on retracement trading. So we'll see where this goes. If it does pull back, we'll watch for support in the 27.99. Don't know if that's going to happen. But if that does happen, that's the area I'd look for to see if we could hold. And then if it goes below that, we still have these 2660s and 2626s. But we'll see if this area, look at that, boom, 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 clear break. A back test would not be out of the question. And then another higher high and a rip is a potential setup there, right? It could also sell here. And if we roll through this area, then if we go back to the 2660 to 2626, we would need a strong rejection to go back to the upside. If not, you're going to see a roll down to the 2474, right? You can see that clearly. Look at this candle structure here. And boom, boom, above. It rolled this area. But you can see the pattern that Amazon's giving you. Boom, pull back. Boom, boom, pull back. Boom. So technically, there should be a pullback here. Just don't know how deep it would be if that does happen. And they could also change the pattern and boom, flag this and pop it. So we'll see. And our beautiful Netflix. And so what did we do? So this area is where we were. It's 28th, right? So into 29th, market open. We pushed down through pre-market our this little channel, little buy zone here, right? And then we regained it. Look at the intraday reversal. And then look at this, all out of this area to strength. And I will wait to draw new temp lines on this. So what I normally do is when something does this, I switch to pivots. And I use pivots anyway, but when something pops and runs all-time highs, I'm purely on the pivot strategy. I'm not using any retracement trading unless it drops back into the previous levels. So that's where I go when something does this. So when you see this, you're like, hey, why doesn't he have lines up here? I'm on pivots. Just straight up, I'm using pivots. And a lot of these lines that I draw here are based on pivots, to be honest, right? Like I use candle structure, but I also use pivots when I pop these lines in. So expectation, there may be a pullback, there may not be, but this is a strong move to the upside, and I'll keep an eye on it to see if we hold this. And I will be using pivots to be able to accurately trade this now that we're at all-time highs, because I don't have any lines up there, and I'm not going to what's the word, to imagine that certain areas are strong just because candles are there. Like, we're up there now, these are some areas that I'm going to draw some lines. Not at all. Maybe on the lower time frame I can see multiple areas, but for me, I'm just going to switch over and just purely be looking at pivots here and using Elisa's strategy. And yes, I use it anyway, every day when I trade, but even more when something makes all-time highs or all-time lows, I am purely looking at pivots. I'm not looking at almost anything else. But remember, what did we talk about on Netflix, right? And this wasn't the last video. This is the video before last. Everyone was excited about everything opening back up, and we saw that a lot of the quarantine tickers that benefited from people being home, were taking a hit. And what we heard was, oh man, states are shutting down bars and shutting things back down, and there's a spike in coronavirus cases. So what do you expect? You expect the tickers that benefited from people being quarantined and having those stay-at-home orders to reverse course and go back up. And what happened? Reverse course, went back up. Here's NVIDIA. And if we look at this, same setup, right? Drop below the line prior to the open. Line regained, doji. And then look at this push through 372, through 382, all-time highs. I mean, what can you say? Just this has been a week. You just buy and you just ride that momentum. What are we looking for going forward in the week? Pivot strategy to the upside. If we come back to the downside, I'm watching 382. If we get below 382, I'll see if we can pull down to the 372 area. Below that, then I'll be looking at the 363 and 351. Not sure if we'll have that type of a range in this upcoming week, but we'll see what happens. I'm not going to battle against the trend. If we're bullish, I'm riding the bullish movement to the upside, as long as I see higher lows and higher highs. And on the pullbacks, they're buying that bad boy up. If we see a roll through the 382s and I see weakness, then I might be interested in a like scalping this quickly to the downside based on my 5-minute or 2-minute chart, maybe even my 10-minute chart, depending on what the range looks like. So we'll see. But I'm in no rush when I see something ripping to try to guess the top. I'd rather the buyers and sellers determine tops and bottoms. And when I have my levels there, as far as lines, I'd rather those lines, like this push through, would I be short on this push through? No, I really wouldn't. But on this pull back through with this doji, I would slide in here and then I would ride this back to the upside. The only way I'll be reversing or getting long this candle here on a lower time frame is if I saw this type of an action on a 10-minute chart, or a 15-minute chart or a 5-minute chart. I saw the reversal, and I also saw the volume. I saw the buyers. I saw the momentum changing. I'm looking at all my indicators, and I see that the buyers have stepped in. And on the same thing on the other side, on the push through, I'm watching on that lower time frame to see have the sellers stepped in and have the buyers given up. And then I'm watching my levels as it goes in the other direction, if that happens. And if I'm in and I'm wrong, I get out quickly. Like, I'm not going to fight the momentum if it's going in the other direction. I'm looking to get the heck out as quickly as possible. And if I average, I see it at an area where I'm in and it's blowing against me, right? And let's say I'm busy doing something else and I missed the opportunity to get out and I didn't put in my stop and it's blowing against me. I'm waiting for my next area. And at that area, I'm going to average heavy to pull my price to that area so that any rejection from this area, I'm out. I'm not waiting for a strong reversal. All I'm looking for is a slight pullback off of that area for me to get the heck out. And if we see any bullish advancement above that area, I just eat it. Next up, Facebook. And same setup we saw, right? 29th. Look at the pullback. We said watch the 210s. That was an area in our last video that we said was a area that was really important to us, like below the 210s. We were going to be a little bit more bearish. As long as we stayed above those 210s, we'll be a little bit more bullish. So we touched that area and look at the rejection. The sellers ran, the buyers stepped in, price reversed, and look at this, back to the upside. Look over here, right? This is not just, imaginary lines and areas. So look at this reversal, back to the upside. Where we touch, boom, the line 240.92, roughly in that area. Didn't quite make it, pull back. Guys, check the previous videos. These lines have been there. So what are we watching going into this upcoming week, right? Are we going to be able to regain the 238s, get above those 240s, or will we see weakness and drop down to the 228 area, maybe even down to the 222s, 219s? But this was a bullish reversal, and we talked about this. If you were watching that video, I said I'll always put in that 210. It's the reason this line is green. This to me is the line of demarcation or the swing door area for Facebook. Above this, if it touches this, then we go back above. I'm bullish. If we touch this and we see a back test and sell, I'm short this. So going into next week, pivot strategy. Definitely don't hesitate to private message Elisa or private message us. The power of pivots, just private messages, or just post your comments in the bottom of the video. It seems a lot of people are shy. They prefer to hit us privately or tag us privately, but not a problem. And she can give you an idea of the areas you should be watching on this in case we continue to squeeze to the upside. But these areas that you see here, that's what I have, right? The 240.92, the 238s, 236, then 228, then 222, right? So keep an eye on these things. And earnings are coming up on what date is this? This looks like the end of July. So that should be interesting heading into earnings to see what Facebook does. Because remember, a portion of their revenue is advertising, but they did launch their competitor for Zoom. So we don't know if they've been able to pick up any corporate clients or if people are just using it for personal use. Their new what's that? Not GoToMeeting, but Zoom meeting hosting platform. So I have no idea what the numbers are on that, how many clients that they've picked up, or what they're doing on that side. So that should, since that was released prior to last earnings, there should be some numbers for that headed into this earnings. And we'll see what those numbers are. Microsoft, let's see. Same thing. Pre-market. Look at that. Right off this line. Reversal and a run. All-time highs. Switch that to pivots, right? That's gone. That and if you remember when we were down here and watched these previous videos, if you guys think that I'm making things up, what I said was all these, and you can look at the other tickers between this date range, you know, the 12th of May all the way over to the 9th of June. And what I mentioned about Microsoft is that all these other tickers were making all-time highs, but not Microsoft. Keep an eye on Microsoft. It's interesting that Microsoft hasn't made all-time highs. And what does Microsoft do? All-time highs pull back, and then we see an advancement in price, and we're gone. So you had to watch these blue chip stocks whenever you see them consolidating, and other stocks that are considered to be in the similar sector are moving, like technology is moving and something's not moving. You know that company is not a horrible company, and that they're doing business during these quarantine times. You have to say, that's interesting that this thing isn't moving, but everything else is moving. You want to keep an eye on that. That's when you need something like a BlackBox stocks, right? You get over to BBS, talk to Tim, talk to Maria, talk to Teresa. You talk to those guys, and what they're going to tell you is, hey, these are some of the the sweeps that we're seeing on this particular stock that will let you know, like based on those options, what the big guys are saying, what they're looking at, right? So you see these areas, but that's when you need something like BBS to be able to see what is the market saying. Yes, you see this on the charts, but where are people placing their bets, right? Imagine that you could see exactly where people are placing their bets. Like you're going to Vegas and hey, people are placing their bets here. That's exactly what, like, black box stocks is like the broker that you would see in Vegas that could tell you the line. That's where you go to find the line. You go to BBS. And so that is my that's what I do. When I'm looking for something, I go there and I check out, see what the sweeps are. I see what they're talking about, what they're focusing on as far as these options and these sweeps. And shout out to those guys. They do a great job.